We've been reviewing different kinds of things that you can do in Python. We've looked at some different data structures. We've looked at loops and conditionals. Now we're going to look at object-oriented programming, which is one of the themes for the semester. Now this stuff, the basics of object-oriented programming, you've already seen in Python 1, but we're just going to go over it again. So if you look at basic data structures in Python, you can define numbers, you can define lists, you can define dictionaries, you can define tuples, which give you different ways of looking at information or data. So I can define a number, a variable x to be a number 2, for example. But in Python, it turns out that that gives you more than just information about 2. You can then do things with that variable. Like I can add a 3 to that. I can print out x. Now the thing is, when you do a print x, this print command is actually expecting a string. Well, it turns out that this integer x has a built-in method to convert it to a string. As is, when you set it equal to 2, that is not a string. But like I said, there's different operations you can also do with the x. You can add, subtract, multiply, divide, all kinds of arithmetic operations you can do with that. And in that sense, that x is what's known as an object. It's a piece of information along with ways that you can operate on that piece of information. So we're going to learn how to, or maybe remind ourselves how to create classes that store some information, but also give us methods for interacting with that information. So I have to confess, when I first started this, I thought I had a brilliant idea. I was watching my son play video games. There were some heroes on there. They were using weapons. I thought, yeah, we could define a hero class, which has a weapons class as part of that. The hero uses the weapon. The weapon has some things that it does, and this will be awesome. Then I got in the process of designing this thing and realized I really didn't know a whole lot about heroes or weapons. So I ended up having to make some things up here. It didn't come out exactly the way I was anticipating. But anyways, so we're going to have a class weapon, and we're going to have a class hero. Now, naming-wise in Python, this is not, you don't have to do this, but when you name a class, then the first letter of each word in the name of the class should start with a capital letter, and then names for other pieces of information, data, whatever, should all be lowercase. So that's the Python-esque way to do that. Okay, so inside this class, we can create a bunch of procedures or functions. When you do this inside a class, these are called methods. And there's some built-in methods in Python. There's the init method, the string method, and there's other methods that are built in. You can tell they're built in because they start with a double underscore and end with a double underscore. They're named that way because it wouldn't be very common for somebody to name something that starts with a double underscore and ends with a double underscore. So it's just a way to avoid using a name that somebody else might use. Then the way this init works is this is an object. So class weapon. I'm sorry, this is a class. It's not an object. This is a class. So we have class weapon. Now, this class gives us a framework for what a weapon should look like. Okay? So we have all these methods in here. So when you think about building a building, this is like having the plans for the building. Okay, so this is the architectural drawing for the building, but we actually haven't built anything yet. You build something when you call that weapon class, pass it in some initialization information, and assign it to something. This actually reserves a piece of memory for that class, and now this is called an object. So down here we're creating this class object, which is a type of a pistol. Probably, again, not the best choice to use for an example video, but at this point this is what we've got. This pistol has a capacity of 7 bullets, and it costs 1 piece of energy to use it, and it currently has 7 pieces of or 7 bullets in it. So it starts off in this case already loaded. Should have come up with another example. Okay, so what happens when we call this class with this definition is that the name gets passed in here as the weapon name. The capacity comes in as the capacity. the energy to use it, and the ammo. These all come in and are stored inside the class. Notice that we're using self here. So self.name means that we're going to store this for Kimber. So Kimber now has a name, it has a capacity, an energy to use, and an ammo attribute. These are called attributes when you have pieces of information stored inside of a class. Kimber now has 4 different attributes, and anything we define a weapon class has 4 different attributes. Weapon also has a string method, which prints out some information about the weapon. And then we have another method to use the weapon where we check to make sure we have ammo left. And if we do, we take one away from that ammo and we'll return the amount of ammo. If we don't have any ammo left, we'll return none. And then we have another method to replenish our ammo where we just add in however much is passed in. Although we don't allow ourselves to go over the capacity of the weapon we have. So it's actually the maximum of adding stuff to our current amount of ammo and the capacity. Okay, so in addition to the weapon class, we have a hero class. The hero has a name, a warrior class. I should have asked my son more questions about this. I guess you could be like a mage or I don't know what else. They have a weapon. Now, part of the reason why I did this way is because this weapon is actually going to be of type weapon class. So any of the methods we have defined up here for weapon class, we can use down here inside of our hero class. The hero has energy and also has shields. So down here, we're creating a hero called Jim Bob. His name is Jim Bob. He is of hero class Redneck, and he carries around a Kimber, which has a capacity I'm sorry, he starts, this is not the weapon. This Kimber is this weapon up here, and then this is how much energy he starts with, and his shields start both at 10. If we ever want to print something out about the hero, the string method is automatically called for that class. So Python will recognize that Jim Bob is of type weapon class and go look for its string method. And it's going to print out, I am the mighty, print his name, his type of class, the type of weapon that he uses. This string right here around self.weapon, remember that weapon is of type weapon class, so this string is going to come up here and use this method to print that information out. I'm going to print out some stuff about the energy that he has and the shields that he has. This has a use weapon class, which calls the weapons use weapon method. I'm sorry, this has a use weapons method, not class. That method calls the weapons use weapon method. That's hard to say. Remember that it returns none if you can't use it. So if this isn't none, that means we've used the weapon. So his energy gets decreased by a little bit. And how much does it get decreased by? Well, the weapon has a built-in attribute called energy to use right here, which we've initialized. So we subtract that amount off from the amount of energy that we have. If this is none, that means that we didn't use the weapon, so we don't do anything. Okay, so down here, we've instantiate class weapon to be a Kimber. We instantiate class hero to be a Jim Bob. We print off Jim Bob, so it's going to call this, which in turn is going to call the string method for the weapon. Then we're going to use Jim Bob's weapon, and then we're going to print Jim Bob again. Okay, so he's the mighty Jim Bob. He's a redneck. He's got a Kimber 1911, which has 7 ammo out of a possible 7, and 10 energy and 10 shields. Then he uses the weapon. He loses 1 piece of ammo, and he loses 1 thing off from his energy because shooting his pistol costs him some energy. Okay, so I'm going to get comments galore on this video for having the audacity to actually talk about pistols in a lesson video. But so be it. The idea here is that, again, you have classes which have attributes and have methods, and then you can use those classes anywhere you want. So if you use that class inside of another class, then I can reference then its attributes and methods in here. And there are built-in methods that any class can employ, the init method and the string method, and others that we won't need so much. All right, on to learn some GUI programming.